Hello everybody, thanks so much for coming and joining us today. Our theme today is moving forward together, and over the next 45 minutes we'll share stories, insights and reflections about acknowledging the past, celebrate culture, connection and hearing from both elders and younger perspectives, shape the path ahead. And today I'm delighted to have with me three beautiful people today. Yeah, James, you're a part of that, but... Thank you. Joe Sauney, Scott Murphy. Scott Murphy's from Veolia, and James Mai. And James is going to start with the acknowledgement to country, please, James.
Okay, thank you, Leanne. I'd like, as part of Busy Group, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where we are today, the Yunga people, and acknowledge their connections to the land, seas and waterways of this region. Also pay our respects to elders past and present.
Thank you so much, James. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for joining us. So just to break the ice a little bit and make sure that we're all relaxed, I wouldn't mind if we just go around the table and introduce ourselves. Tell us a little bit about you. So let's start with the beautiful Joe Sauney.
Hi everyone. I am Joe Sauney, so I am the First Nations mentor in the Somerset region. I deliver the First Nations pre-employment program under our contract. So that's a bit about myself. I identify as Aboriginal Torres Strait, so I come from the Widi, BirriGubba, Barda, Kullilli people, and also Badu Island. Very immersed in culture and very happy and excited to be a part of this space, so thank you.
Thanks, Joe. And over to our guest today, Scott Murphy. Please go.
Thank you. Yes, Scott Murphy. I work for Veolia. Veolia is a big corporate, international. There's 250,000 people around the world, 6,000 here in Australia. I've been lucky enough to be in with Veolia for 30 years now, and in the last sort of 5 or so years, I've been pretty wrapped up in our RAP. At the moment, I'm co-chairing our RAP working group and helping out with the RAP steering committee, which goes all the way up to the top of the country in Australia. And that's
nice.
Me.
Yeah, great. A wrap around the RAP.
That's it, we're wrapping around the RAP in Veolia.
We might touch on that a little bit later as well about the RAP. We were chatting earlier. And over to James Mai.
Hi all, James Mai. I'm the First Nation Development Coordinator for the Busy Group. I'm proud Wakka man. My role is mainly ensuring that we achieve everything in our Reconciliation Action Plan, and also assist entities within the organisation where a First Nations perspective is required.
Yeah, great, thank you. So today, as I mentioned, it's about moving forward together. We're really encouraging everyone that has joined us online to please ask questions. This is a very safe space that we want you to ask questions, anything that you're not sure of, when it comes to First Nations or women's business, men's business. There's a certain amount that we'll be able to talk about today. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat. And I've got a beautiful Jackie over here who you can't see at the moment, and she'll be feeding me some of those questions as well, rather than me reading off a script. So so that'd be great if you could do that. So let's just start moving forward together. Let's go back to you again, Joe. What does moving forward together mean to you?
So moving forward, as a First Nations woman, I'm very proud to sit in this movement. I've sat in this movement in many different spaces, many different forums in my background and field of work. Part of movement is reconciliation. So it definitely aligns with RAP and our core values and where we sit as Busy. Reconciliation is about different people coming together and acknowledging Australians' past treatment of First Nations people, to examine how we work together and achieve united future. Reconciliation is about strengthening relationships between Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and non-Indigenous peoples for the benefit of Australia. So that's my core values as a First Nations woman and as a person in general, as a human. Sitting in this space, that is my values and that's what I offer in this space. And reconciliation today is everybody's business. So That's what I believe, Leanne.
Yeah. No, well said. Scott, I'm really keen to get into Veolia. Before we went live here, Scott was explaining to me, Veolia they deal with water.
Water and waste.
Really exciting stuff. And they've been around for a very long time. In fact, the first contract, I believe, was actually with Napoleon in France.
Right.
Go figure.
Yeah,
So I think, we would be really keen with a company that's been running for so long, and you've had the wrap for such a long time. You've been there for 30 years, 6,000 people, busy. When I first started, we had about 200. We're now, tipping the 1,000. What things could we learn from, or would you share with us that we might be able to take with us when it comes to, our planning for our next wrap, which will be, July next year, this particular one that we've got, innovation. Could you share a bit of that with us, what you've learned that we might be able to learn from?
Yeah, no problem. So I think Veolia's been on a journey this, an old company, as we just talked about, 100 and something years old. But coming to Australia, and we've had a journey through reconciliation. So we recently celebrated 10-year anniversary of our wrap, and we're actually looking at the moment to move to the next level of our wrap, which will be Elevate, which will be quite the step for us. But it's certainly come from a place where we've been learning along the way, listening, and a lot about taking action. So it's not just about having the document and having the intent. You actually have to do stuff, I think, and it has to really count and mean something in the communities where we operate. So Veolia around the country, we've got, I think forget how many sites, but it's hundreds anyway. And so we're in all sorts of communities, whether it's regional or even some of the remote communities and cities as well. And that journey through reconciliation, as we sort of describe it in our wrap, has to translate to that community that you're in. So you've got to be doing things that make sense and that mean something for those communities and for those First Nations people. One of the sort of the headline programs, I guess, which we encourage other organisations to do and participate in, is called Future Forward. And I'll just talk a little bit about Future Forward as the program. So we take some young people out of Indigenous communities, or give them opportunities. So open that up to a cohort, usually around 30 people or so, 30 young people. And then we give them the opportunity to look around the business. So these people might have come from remote communities and they just don't have some exposure to some of the big sort of corporate stuff that you see in companies like Veolia. Seeing what opportunity lie out there. They have a program where they do sort of 6 weeks moving around the country, just seeing what's out there. They're doing trades or apprenticeships, or they might like the corporate stuff where they're into finance or accounting or something like that. And then the end of that sort of 6-week program, where it's not only looking what Veolia has, but also showing what sort of support network can sit around that program. So there's a whole lot of mentoring and engagement with our First Nations network, which already exists within the business. So learning who people are and how you can make connection there. Yeah. And at the end of that, looking for the opportunity. So that opportunity might be, a mechanic, or an accountant, and those roles that are then opened up for those First Nations people who want to go and pursue a career within Veolia. And so far, it's been really successful.
Really well.
Yeah.
How do you just quickly, how did these First Nation younger people, how do they find out about that? If Busy wanted to do a program similar, what would be our steps?
Yeah, so it's that connection to community is important, right? So you need to be able to reach out to those communities where they don't usually get exposure, and it takes time. You need to spend the time through your existing operations, but then also reaching out through, we were talking about before, the Indigenous Telegraph. That network across those communities is far-reaching, and you cannot get a better communication network. So you reach into that network, out into those communities, and then you say, look, there's an opportunity. These mob here in Veolia, they actually have something that is working, and take the opportunity. So using those networks to ask them if they want to come and have a look. Just have a look. It's nothing more than that. Just have a look.
Have a look, yeah. And I guess that's where, James, with your role, that's a part of that, isn't it? Building those partnerships and networks.
Yeah, as we know that within the communities there, you need to have that connection, and probably one of the other things, you need to have that trust as well.
Yeah.
If you don't have that from the word go, you're not going to progress anything that will be beneficial for that community. And again, as I put it, when you go in there, it's knowing who's sowing the seed and who are the right people to talk to. And again, there might be a connection there somehow. I'll just give an example. I've been to a couple of communities and introduced myself, and somebody will go, you related to so-and-so? I said, yeah, that's my uncle. Okay, then you've started that connection there.
Yeah.
And it just flows on from there. And the more that you gain the trust, the more that you are willing to engage and tell them how it is. Do not try to, as for in some terms, fluff things up, but tell them the truth. It's not trying to do the, okay, this is great, we love it. But again, tell them how it is and the realities of it. Because from my experience as a young fella, for example, I went and joined the army, and my uncle said, boy, it is going to open your eyes. So again, it's open your eyes and see what opportunities are out there.
Yeah. And I guess we do that with the schools, like with our busy schools, and we've now got 9 campuses here in Australia. Very proud of that, Scott. And also over in the UK and New Zealand, we're doing our first prize giving and opening in Auckland. And we're growing. We've got another one, actually there will be 10 because of Townsville. And that kind of leads me to you as well, Joe, because you work with the First Nations ex-offenders as well, and that trust is a big part of, where these kids may have got on the wrong track to start with, and how do we get them back in? And I think, this isn't necessarily the forum to go into depth about it, but it's certainly a good thing for the rest of Busy to know what it is that we actually do, because there's so many different programs, and I find this one really fascinating, how we're, and obviously the obstacles that you're up against as well.
Yeah, so thank you, Leanne, that's very true. So in my program, I go through a holistic cultural approach to identify barriers. So a lot of the First Nations clients, a lot of mob that do identify, sit in the incarceration space. So either reoffend, so culturally I will network myself. So part of my role is community development, and that's networking with elders, traditional owners, and First Nations businesses, stakeholders, building that rapport and that trust within community, because community becomes your home. Where we, as First Nations people, we're not living on our own country land, so we network with community and stakeholders and build that rapport and that trust within community. So what I do holistically is overview, and I tailor to special needs for First Nations clients that are culturally appropriate. If I need to specifically specify and tailor to men's business, I reach out to community. So, and it's also about building that rapport and relationship, and also the pathways to supporting First Nations businesses. So supporting their business and what they do on country, and also supporting First Nations clients, and then successfully merging them through employment, because that can take some time. However, the field of work where I come from as well, my background in schools, so a lot of the young people, and I have sat in the space with the Strathpine school, so the busy Strathpine school. Very appreciative to sit in that space with the young people. There are barriers. So the barriers, what that looks like is intergenerational trauma. So if we identify that from a young age and incorporate the workshops and programs, and employment through employment and education, that can only work to positive outcomes. So unfortunately, a lot of the young people are exposed from the intergenerational trauma and from what they've been taught, hence the cohort that I sit in, and the conversations that I have with a lot of the parents that are going through those obstacles and barriers presently. So It's all about reconciliation, as I said, and it's all about closing the gap and how we identify that in our role. Be a part of the conversation. They are uncomfortable conversations. However, we're here to support you through that transition. So, yeah, that's what that looks like, Leanne.
And one of the other questions that was sort of nagging at me while you were talking there as well was in regards to the elders. So we talk about the elders a lot, and I guess, you know, we think elders, well, that was the past. So we acknowledge the past when we do an acknowledgement or a welcome to country. How do we bring the new young generation that's coming in, how do we get them to integrate into these storytelling and understanding not just First Nations people, but all Australians? How do we do that? Like, what's our role in the RAP committee and as people that working in Busy and Veolia? How do we do that? Who'd like to jump in and answer that question? Scott, I'm looking at you.
Straight away.
Yeah, I did.
That's all right. I'm happy to have a chat about that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a number of ways that we try and do it in Veolia anyway. So anybody who joins the business, as part of their, you know, not their day one, but in their first part, they're doing an induction, right? And that's the induction which you do when you join. Most companies, you know, where's the toilets and all that sort of stuff, but it's also, this is Veolia, we've got a RAP and this is important to us. And this is what it means to us. And so what our ambition is through our RAP, and how you as an individual when you join the company, how you can participate in that, right? And that might be that if you're a buyer, you know, so you're going out and you're spending money, that you need to engage with Indigenous businesses and give them the opportunity to participate in that process of buying off Veolia. Or it might be that you're out in community, and in some of our in some of our remote communities, that means actually attending some of the cultural events that you're in that community. Like, this is expected as part of working for Veolia, right? And then when you do that, you bring it back to, say, the RAP committee or to your colleagues in the workplace, and then you share that. So it's a bit of that sharing of that understanding of the lands on which you're on. Mm-hmm. Another one is you get the opportunity. I don't have it on today, but you get we've got a shirt, right, which has got our RAP motif on it. So when you join, you say, here's a shirt, but there's a catch, right? You don't just get given a nice new shirt. You need to go out now and you can wear your shirt if you want. Go out into your local community, understand what's going on, and then take some photos and actually come back with the stories that you've learnt from that community. So that might be
awesome.
Yeah, that's a nice. And there's heaps of it out there. If you just have a look, lots of these communities are present there, and you're just going to have to ask questions. You know, who do I have a chat to about? You know, who do I have a chat to? And you find out, you know, whether it's elders or it's just a part of that community. But usually the elders are the ones that are quite good at having a yarn and teaching you. You go and find out, and then you come back and you report, oh, this is what I found out. You know, this is the lands on which we are working on today. This is some of the heritage, is some of the culture that comes with this land. So that sort of stuff is from not day one, but, you know, in the first bit when you join the company, that's what it's expected of you. Right?
Yeah, I like that. I like that in culture. I think, I'm not sure what happens with the induction side of things with Busy, but as part of the RAP committee, I'm sure we will have a look at that as well. But I should imagine we will do a lot of that already. So has there been any questions that have come through? Come on, guys, where's our questions? Otherwise, you just have to listen to my voice. But I'm sure that there are some. The other one I wanted to ask, and I think I'll ask this one from Joe. How has culture shaped your journey and relationships, and maybe an example of culture connection, strengthening and understanding?
So I guess reflecting on what I do in my role now is I also, when I do my program, when I present my program, I do a welcome program. So I always let mob introduce themselves and who they identify as. And it's part of building that relationship, it's empowering them. And for those that don't want to speak, that's fine. Usually they'll come back and they'll give their feedback when that's time. Culture is everything. It's our life. It's the forefront of what we do. Always. As a cultural woman, I still practice culture today. And a lot of us do. So eventually I will hear the stories from First Nations candidates, customers, clients, you know, where they come from. So in the space that I sit in, a lot of them can't return home due to their bail conditions. So what that looks like for me in my role present as a First Nations mentor is creating workshops for them or reaching out to community. Kinship is the biggest thing. And as we do identify stolen generation, a lot of us do come from stolen generation. So that's that disconnection from our families. Some of the customers that do sit in that space and have a conversation with me, a lot of them are culturally either shunned from their families, so we still have that in our cultural protocols. It could be due to like shame, their shame because of what they've just gone through as an offender. So they're potentially shunned from their family or their community due to those restrictions. So it's strengthening and building that relationship with them and incorporating workshops, reaching out to community and elders and supporting on a holistic approach. So when you look at holistic, it could be, you know, many different things. It's the kinship, it's the food, it's the connection to country, it's the education, it's their children. So there's many different aspects in those barriers. For me to identify and tailor to a certain client, whether it could be men or women's business, these are the barriers that I face with our clients sitting in the busy, and how do I then successfully merge them into employment? And that can take some time. Even myself as a woman, that is the barrier. Especially a lot of the clients that do come through do identify as males. So if at any time I will reach out to Brother James and have that discussion if there is no point of contact in community. So yeah, it's a reflection, and it's always culture is at the first and foremost front of everything that I do. And I do unpack that conversation in my programs. Respect is a two-way street. So yeah, that's what that looks like.
Yeah, so we have got a question here. I'm just trying to read this. So for non-Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander or First Nation staff members, so that's you guys, is there a respectful way to start communication and start to build trust with communities? James, how about you?
Okay.
On that one.
Gaining trust within the communities is...
This is like for our staff.
So for our staff,
yeah.
is... I always put it down, as I mentioned earlier, is engaging. You've got to engage early within communities and find out who are the right people to talk to within that community. And again, it is, as Joe was saying, it's all about that engagement and introductions. Like we both started off, we introduced ourselves of who we were, where we came from. That is the start of it. And then you continue that conversation. If you're talking to community and it's about a certain thing, maybe a project or something like that, or a program that we're looking at trying to run, you don't start off with that at the start. You may have to go back to the community about 2 or 3 times to actually get, the real reason I'm here is because we want to run this program, because in the communities, they want to know about you. They want to know if they can trust you, and if they can trust you, then they'll open up. And then you'll have your chance to speak. And if they trust you, you may be only talking to about two elders or something like that. When you come back to give your final little chat, there might be about 10 of them in. Because, as we say, for Queensland, the Murray Grapevine, bang, they'll all come in so they can have a chat to you. I'll just give a bit of a story. Another company I was working with, we went up to the Pilbara and we wanted to do a program up there. So prior to having the initial meetings, I went up there about 3 weeks in advance to find out who were the relevant traditional owners, elders to talk to. So in that 3 weeks, I found out, as I put it, who's who in the zoo, and asked them, would it be feasible for us to come up at a certain time to have a meeting with you? Yep, we done that. We had 12 elders come in from the traditional owner groups around the Pilbara. Ibra was able to bring up our CEO, our Chief Operating Officer and the WA State Manager. And the whole idea was to actually sit down and listen to their concerns. once we sat down and listened to the concerns, all the managers, all that, they just said, can we come back in about 3 weeks' time and we will have a program that we want yous to have a look at before we do anything. Did that, came back 3 weeks' time. They put the program up there. If anything that yous are not happy with, tell us now and we'll go and try it. We'll fix it up here and now. And that engagement and that trust was able to get a good program up and running. Up in Port Hedland.
But like how would I, for instance, like if it's me, because like it's different for yourself because you are already First Nation, you've got all of your, that's your role. But like for, you know, anyone else in Busy or for myself, or like maybe Scott, you can follow through with this one because you give them the shirt. We're actually offering shirts as well, I think. Certainly some Busy shirts, but I'm sure we'd be happy to offer some of our beautiful Indigenous artwork shirts if we could help make that happen so that it's all of our staff going out there and finding more about their community rather than waiting for James, or because there's only one of you.
Yeah, I'll just throw one thing in there. And I've always said it when I'm talking to people, ask the question. Introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Do not walk on eggshells. That's my little saying, do not walk on eggshells. Ask the question. If you were going out there, please don't be afraid, ask. And that's the start of the conversation.
Yeah.
I can give you a bit of an example for this exact same thing, because just from an example I was involved with. So we're going up to Northern Peninsula, up Cape York there, into a community which we didn't know, which is, you know, Indigenous community up there, or Torres Strait Islanders. And here we go, the big Veolia, right? This French company, we rock into town, and there's like 3,000 people in the surrounding communities, and we just can't, you can't just walk in thinking you're just going to be accepted into town. So it's just step quietly. We step quietly with just a couple of people, and the first thing they go and do when they walk into town is go find out who's who. Like Uncle James was saying, you go and ask, and it might not just be one group. Like in this case, there's usually more than one group.
I've heard this.
And so you got to work out. You're not just talking to, you know, one TO or one mob. There's actually quite a few, and you make sure that you're talking to them all, and you're talking to them fairly. And they say, we're not here to take over or do anything like that. We're here to work with you, because you got to work in that community, right? And if they don't trust you, you're not doing anything, right? It'll be 10 times harder. So you go in there really quietly, find out, okay, who's who, and then you ask, what do you think, you know, what do you want from us when we come in? Like, ask that question, what do you want from us? Before you go and tell them what you're going to do. So I think that's the important bit. Reach out before you get there with the, you know, before you bring the big, you know, the big mobs in there, you reach out, you say, okay, who's who, what are you guys looking for? What do you want from us when we come to town? Because we'll come to town and we'll bring, you know, what we bring with us, you know, because we've got a lot of infrastructure and a lot of stuff. But before we do that, what are you looking for? And most of the time, it's real simple stuff, you know. Oh, you know, we just want jobs for, you know, for our mob over here, or we just want an opportunity to, you know, supply some services to you. It's real simple stuff, and all you have to do is ask. Like you say, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Because
they'll tell you, but once they trust you and they know, okay, you guys are, you're a fair dinkum, you're not here just to take advantage, then it starts piling in, right? And then you don't have to ask anymore because they come and tell you.
Yeah.
I think one other thing is, I think when you get to the elders, the older elders, they still have a perception of the bad old days.
Yeah.
The bad old days is when, as I got told, when you see a whole heap of white four-wheel drives come in, this is the government mob coming in, and they'll sit down, talk to you, and they'll go, this is what we're going to do for you. And that's it. It's not what do you want from us? This is what we're going to do for you, and they'll drive straight back out. So, and that is, and it's not beneficial for the community or individuals in there. And that was the bad old days. And some of the older elders will know that, and unfortunately, some of those stories will be passed on to younger ones as
And it is part of the history
of it. That's it.
Happened. I mean, that's the reality, isn't it?
Yep.
Like, you know, you can't deny what happened, and you know, but it's about reconciling. It's about working together. It's about partnership building, industry building. step by step, you know, having key people like yourself, Joe, and James here, and then, you know, learning from other companies that have done it as well, and how busy can actually, you know, work together, like interweave together. So, you know, if you're going up there, Viola's going up there, and they're going to put some water infrastructure, maybe, you know, with Busy, we've got our schools, we've got our campuses, we've got our apprenticeships, we've got jobs where we can actually work, and some labour hire, and try and help with that education and the skills and the, you know, the training and the jobs, which is what we're all about. So, but yeah, I think, you know, the other thing that I was keen on touching on is still like more with that younger generation, and I'm talking about not just First Nations, I'm talking about our future. Like, what is the legacy that we want to, you know?
I'll give you one example of that. In my time in a uniform, I went down to Walgett, which is a large Aboriginal community in New South Wales. I was invited to give a speech at one of the schools. After it, I finished, and I looked out in the playground, and there's old elder sitting there under a tree, and he's got this whole class, all year threes. Aboriginal, non-Aboriginal, all sitting down.
Lovely.
And I just went, what's going on there? To the teacher, said, once a week, we get an elder to come in, and he takes the year 3 class, puts them under the tree, and he just tells them stories about the area. And I said, why is it just a year 3? So they said, the year 3s, they're at that age where they're taking these stories in, and then they will go home, tell their parents, tell their other friends and all that. But it's the history of that area. It is starting to be passed on. It's just not going to First Nations kids, it's going to all of them.
Everybody,
of that area. So that's how they're building that up. And it's a continuation as they go along. And then again, when we talk about within the communities and all that, the stories, that's how we tell everything. It's storytelling. Understand the stories, and then it gets passed on. You will get good stories, you'll get bad stories. Of course, that's the way history is. I'm a big believer, understand your stories. If they're bad, understand them, so you don't repeat the same thing again. And that's where the young ones are starting to come into it. They're starting to understand those stories, and now they're starting to go, okay, this has happened then, we don't want to go down that path again. And you're starting to get these younger ones who start to become these leaders as well within communities, and they're taking that step forward, and it's getting, overall, it's getting better and better as I put it, as we are developing. We're still developing, and as I put it, we're still developing as a nation. So that's the way we move forward.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting because, you know, it is history. It's what has happened and what's happening right now, and then, you know, what's going to happen in the future. And have we got a question? Have we? Okay, sorry. What's one thing every non-First Nations team member could do on a daily basis to move forward together in our day-to-day lives? Yeah, so we'll start with you, Jo.
I would definitely recommend do some research. Do research in your home. We have, you know, now we have smartphones. We've got technology. I would point out YouTube. You know, do your research. Look up whatever that looks like, intergenerational trauma, how you would merge yourself into community spaces or forums, things like that. I am myself on many platforms, Metro North for NAIDOC, so feel free to jump on that space. Through culture, we do our stories, as brother said, so be aware too of what area you're in and the stories and the knowledge of that area. Because even though we share our stories and our song lines and the history to that area, it's not based in every area. So we all have stories and traditional stories of different areas. Yeah, I would definitely do research. Reach out to us. Reach out to me or James, NAIDOC, you know, feedback. Feedback is always good. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are accessible. But yeah, that's how I would myself, put yourself in that space.
Yeah, for me, I'd say do more of what you like doing. So if you like going to the movies, there's heaps of pretty great movies that you can go and you can get some education, a bit of understanding of some of the history that we have here in Australia. Like there's 60,000 years of bloody culture to try and understand. So if you like going and seeing movies, go and see movies about it. If you like reading books, there's heaps of great books, which some of the content is mind-blowing when you look at it. Some of the history that we have through our First Nations people in the country. If you like running, you run down bloody bush track, what country am I on, Go and find out about that country that you're on, and then next time you run it down there, there's the culture or the history that's happened over here. Just do more of what you like doing, and then absorb some of that, 60,000 years, which has got us to where we are today.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good motto to have, isn't it? Like, no matter where you are, if you're running or down at the beach, learn a little bit more about country, where you are, find out what communities might be around that you can get involved in. Yep. And anyway, sorry, James, back to you.
Yeah, in that, love me sport, go to Broncos. They won the grand final.
There you go, Broncos.
But for example, if it's rugby league, have a look through history. Who was the first First Nations captain of an Australian team? Arthur Beetson, who was the First Nations captain of the Australian rugby league team. Little things like that, you start thinking, oh, okay, yeah. Another one, who was the First Nations bowler to bowl Donald Bradman out?
Exactly.
And where's he come from? Cherbourg. First name, Gilbert's last name.
Someone Gilbert?
Yeah, I can't remember his first name.
Anyone know?
Yeah, but he was the first bowler. Cherbourg bowled Donald Bradman out for a duck. But again, there are these, and I'm saying this is on sport, but there's other individuals who have done so well within history that are First Nations individuals. Yeah. So again, have a look at some of those things to literally understand. And just something a bit far left or right, whichever way you want to look at it. As during our history, over 60,000 years, hey, we're the only people who could design a stick that comes back to you. And that's reality.
Yeah, this is true. It's a stick that comes back to you.
How can you... There was certain skill sets within that going back then.
Yeah. And we still practice it too.
Yes, we still practice it.
We still practice culture.
Yeah. And that's where it all started from. Yeah. And that's it.
And that's part of giving that to the next generation. So we have to, and that's part of their education.
Yep.
Yeah. So through these workshops too, we can teach, the wider community, not just our children and the next generation, but everybody's children. So we're all part of this nation now, and we're evolving. So being a part of that movement is reconciliation.
Yeah. Yep. And so, we've probably got 5 minutes or so left now. So I just wanted to also touch on, we'll have another question, but I just wanted to touch on, make sure that, after this as well, we are actually recording this. So we will have it up on the Hive. So for anyone that has missed it, or if you want to have another listen to it, there's been some really valuable information here. I know 45 minutes isn't a long time, but we do thank you for, taking the time during your lunch break as well to join us for this. We have got a wrap. The Reconciliation Action Plan is up on the Hive. We have our committee that you can write to. You can ask if you want to join the committee, get involved in some of the activities that we do. You'll see in the wrap what activities we're doing and where we're at the moment. And that is an innovation. This is our very first The Busy Group wrap. So before that, we've had Busy at Work wraps, and we've had On Cue wraps, Busy Ability. So, but this is our very first The Busy Group wrap. So 2006, July 2006, this one runs out. So we're already starting to look at what we do next. So I'll just check that next question. So can you define the audience country mob communities. Sorry, what does that mean? Can you define?
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Can you define for the audience?
Yeah. Okay, country. A lot of people get mixed up with this. Country is where your spiritual connection is. I'm saying I'm Wakka Wakka. That is my country. I'm on Wakka Wakka country. That's where my spiritual connection is. Spiritual connection, family connection is there. So when a lot of people get that mixed up when you're talking about, a bit controversial when you start talking about you're welcome to countries and all that. It's the country that you have your spiritual connection to. Mob, that's the family mob. That's where you are in that area. But as we say, mob expands. Yeah. They go all over the place. Yeah. So, but you originally started in that, on your country there, but it's like as we evolve or develop over the centuries and all that, everybody starts moving around. You've got to take into account too, Aboriginal people were nomadic people as well. They travelled all around the place. So, again, community it's all coming back to your spiritual connection, and that's your community. So, as we say about our family connection, our kinship and all that, we're all there. Do we have to agree on everything? No, we don't. But that's where we have our community, our mob, our kinship is all there. It's that spiritual connection.
Yeah, thank you for that. How much longer? Okay, we've got 2 minutes, so we'll do a quick wrap around. So starting with you, Joe, what would you like the people listening today, watching us today, one thing that you'd like them to go away with, please?
I would like to just give the feedback in regards to the next generation. Yes, it's really important what we do in the busy group and where we sit in our spaces. However, it's what we educate, not just ourselves, but our family and our children. So it's being mindful what we are giving ourselves, but most importantly, what we want to educate the next generation to become a better future for them. So as I said, reconciliation is everybody's business, and we all need to be a part of that movement. It does come from your home. Education is power. So definitely, sit in that space. Thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, one thing, just take an action. So it could be a really simple thing. It could be really big as well. Don't set your goals too small. If you're really ambitious, I want to go and join the rap committee, or I want to do something, or just take a walk and understand what country you're on, or go and find out what country you're on.
Yeah, great. And James?
Think outside the box. Don't get caught up just going down that path. Think outside the box and have an open mind.
Lovely. Okay, so without further ado, this always goes way too fast. The beautiful Joe Sauney, thank you so much for joining us. Scott Murphy from Veolia and James Mai. And thank you guys for joining us as well. And we look forward to catching up with you next time. We'd love your feedback and we would love for you to let us know what you liked about this, any other ideas that you might want for us to, continue to have these rap panel discussions. And thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Yo.
Right.